Good afternoon. First of all, I want to take this great opportunity to announce to you guys that this is no longer just an episode of me talking about a specific issue just for the sake of it. This is the first episode of my new show called The Pledge of Loyalty. So I'm going to try to upload like 3 times a week, update you on political events, my opinion on them, and of course, leave some room for you to make your own interpretation. Because here, I am not lecturing you. I am engaging with you and trying to give you a different point of view. So with that, I want to take another chance to apologize for not posting. On Friday and Saturday, I was still very emotionally shaken up about the death of our mentor and friend, Charlie Kirk. And honestly, I didn't really have enough facts that I felt I could make an episode on this. So without further ado, let's begin. First of all, I want to take a chance to pray for the victims of September the 11th, since it was around 3 days ago, and for the victims again of the Colorado shooting, and for obviously Charlie Kirk. Dear Jesus, we come to you today to ask you for the life of Charlie Kirk, Lord. Thank you for everything he's put forth, for the message he fought for, and for the thousands, if not millions, of people he inspired. May he be with you now. We pray to you, to the children who died on the very horrible and heinous school shooting in Colorado. May they find peace with you, Lord. And I want to pray again for the 3,000 victims of 9/11, that they may be with you, and that we may never forget what happened on that day. We ask you, we pray in the name of Jesus. Amen. So, to start off this episode, I do have a few good news. You guys probably have been watching it on X. The culprit has been caught. We got him. His name, Tyler Robinson, a 22-year-old degenerate from Utah. Now, what makes this crime so heinous and so horrible was that Charlie was not a criminal. Charlie was not in any way a proponent of violence. And Charlie, most specifically, was not an extremist, as people like to portray him as. Now, he was actually a moderate. Of course, to the left, anybody who does not agree with them is an extremist, is a fascist, is a Nazi, is whatever name you want to call him. But he was not. He was a moderate. So first of all, before we really get into the proponents of this murder and what that means for us young conservatives, I want to discuss historically what fascism is. Now, to any leftist that is watching this video right now, that's watching my channel, I doubt any of are, considering my political views, I have one question for you. What is a fascist? You clearly like to call anybody on college campuses, on workplaces in this country a fascist. So I have one question for you. What is a fascist? What do you define as a fascist? Who is a fascist? Who is the model of fascism in your eyes? That is when they cannot answer. I guarantee you 100% of the times I have asked publicly a leftist who called me a fascist, what is a fascist? They were not able to answer me. They didn't know what a fascist was. Now, either they're ignorant or they're lying, or both. So obviously, being the intellectually honest person I try to be, I will teach you about what fascism is. Fascism was a radical movement created in Italy by Giovanni Gentili and Benito Mussolini as a response to the anti-war platform of the then Italian Socialist Party, Partito Socialista Italiano. Mussolini, before becoming a fascist, was an avid socialist, which is why, if you read him and Gentili's book, The Doctrine of Fascism, you will see very big similarities between the two ideologies. Number one, both fascism and socialism support a planned economy, and that is a fact. Fascism incorporates the economic policy of national syndicalism. What is that, you may ask? A national labor union, where the state has, in many ways, control of the means of production for the sake of national security. Where companies are not able to operate unless they have clear permission given by the state. Where people cannot make individual businesses without a required charter by the state. That is what fascism entails economically. And there is more. Fascism was an incredibly militaristic movement. As we know from history, from the invasion of Italy to Abyssinia and Albania and other parts of Africa, as we saw from Adolf Hitler's invasion of Poland, of Austria, of Czechoslovakia, of the Soviet Union, of all these countries. The ideology of fascism not only incorporates an aggressively planned economy, it also incorporates an aggressively expansionist foreign policy. Now, why is that? Because the slogan of fascism is that individuals are weak on their own. However, through a collective in the state, we are strong. That is the motto of fascism. Now, one question for you. Where did Charlie Kirk, the fascist, the horrible Nazi, where did he ever suggest it? I have been a member of Turning Point USA for over 3 years now. I am a capitalist. I am an individualist. I am a Christian. And I, in many cases, have been a right-wing libertarian. As you can see from the flag hanging right behind me, I do not support dictatorships. To hell with all dictators. Now, where does the name fascism come from? How are we a fascist? They don't know. The truth is, because the term fascism has become a demonizing term used by the left to delegitimize their opponents, to demonize their opponents, and thus make their opinions not be listened to clearly for the sake of you're inferior. You don't know what you're talking about. You want to kill us. That is what calling somebody a fascist in modern day terms means. And you know who started that? The Soviet Communist Party. The Communist Revolution. Vladimir Lenin clearly told his followers, accuse your enemy of what you are. And this sentence by this Russian communist directly and perfectly incorporates the motto of the modern left wing today. Accuse them of what you are. And that is what the left is. And I don't care who is going to silence me. I don't care who is going to censor me. I don't care who is going to cancel me. I don't. The left has become the modern incorporation of fascism. They have become the modern authoritarians. If you do not agree with them on every single thing, you are a fascist. You are a threat to democracy. And we will murder you, as shown by the actions against Charlie Kirk, as shown by the attempted assassination attempt on President Donald Trump. They have zero moral virtue. They have zero political knowledge. And they have zero sense of responsibility. Now let's dive on that. We are honest, of course, and I'm going to say not all left-wingers are like that. I'm actually friends with quite a few of them who are intellectually honest, who like to have debates, and who just want their ideals to be put in society through a peaceful form. I get that. Which is why, unlike them, I love free speech. I want everybody to have a chance to spread their political ideology in a peaceful manner. However, believe what you want. I'm friends with a socialist. He is one of the nicest people I've ever seen. But he is not like the modern incorporation of the Democratic Party left today. He's not, okay? Arthur, if you're watching this, thank you for being such a good friend. But let's dive on that. And I want to talk specifically today. I made an episode about Charlie Kirk. And God bless him. God bless everything he stood for. Today I want to talk more about what led to this assassination. As I touched on the last episode, but I want to touch on it now again. What led to the assassination of Charlie Kirk was a flawed, mischaracterized, and honestly ignorant portrayal of political ideologies as I have just explained. I do believe that the leftists in colleges, many including in my own, are not, for the sake of it, evil. They are just misinformed, misaligned, and mistaught what they perceive to see. I do, however, believe that a lot of them, a big part of them, especially anybody who celebrates or justifies the murder of Charlie Kirk, are not miseducated. They're just evil. And honestly, we have gotten to a turning point. This today is America's turning point. This is the turning point of the conservative movement. This is our turning point. And the fact of the matter is, the left has crossed the line. I mean, obviously, they have crossed the line many times before. In 2015, in 2020, when they wanted to jail us all for being against mandates that had no scientific comproval, they have crossed the line when they supported the attempted assassination of the former president. But unfortunately, that went quiet. Why? Because people think the left's ideas are so crazy, they're so brain dead, that nobody took them serious. And I want to take a moment to apologize to everybody on the right, in the center, and on the left. I am sorry for not taking the ideas and threats of the left seriously. And now I say to you watching me, it is time we take them seriously. Why? Because we are the same political soulmate of Charlie Kirk. When you have a man who has the courage to enter college campus with a sniper and shoot an innocent man who's just preaching his opinion dead, what does that mean to you? What does that show? It shows that if they are willing to come after Charlie Kirk for being a conservative, they're willing to come after you for being a conservative. So it's not only a murder, it is a terrorist attack on a political group. And that is exactly what a lot of people don't get. This is not only targeted towards Charlie Kirk. This is a direct attack on you who voted for Trump, on you who voted Republican, and you who didn't vote but has a flag of "Don't tread on me," just like mine. And because the left hates them. They hate us. They hate this country. They hate the Constitution. They hate everything. They have never, I don't even know if a lot of them are even capable of feeling love, knowing that they are justifying and cheering for the murder of a family man, a husband of a marvelous wife, Erica Kirk, who delivered one of the most powerful addresses following his death, a father of 2 young children who will never get to have a kiss from their father ever again. You have to be morally dead to cheer for something like that. And I am very grieved to open up X every day and see people justifying it. So what does this really mean other than a rant about the people who are responsible in some ways for this attack? Let's get into it, politically speaking. I didn't really want to make this political. Unfortunately, we have to, right? Because this is, of course, a political assassination. And the fact of the matter is, once again, the Democratic Party doesn't care. They never cared. The only reason they are condemning Charlie Kirk's murder now is to look good for votes. That's all they've ever cared about. Votes, power, influence. They don't care about his life. So much so that Ilhan Omar was just trashing him a day after his death and calling for gun control. I mean, how can you be so retarded to watch a man die and your first response after laughing is, we need gun control, we need to ban guns? That just fails to ever influence me. It fails to make me understand, like, how can these people be any logical? But worse than the pushes for gun control, which as a matter of fact are completely baseless and ineffective, considering the fact that gun control would not have stopped the murder of Charlie Kirk. It was targeted. He had a sniper. Considering that gun control would not have stopped the school shooting in Colorado, which is a highly gun-regulated state, in Minnesota, which is also a very high gun-regulated state, to stop the thousands of mass shootings over the years in cities like Chicago, Nashville, New York, Los Angeles, which are highly gun-regulated cities. The worst is not even gun control. It is the mental gymnastics about the murderer, Tyler Robinson, who, yes, is a leftist. The murderer is a leftist. And now, I am very sorry that I even have to prove this to you guys. This should be common sense, right? If we were in a society full of normal people who actually know what they're talking about, we would just look at the picture like, yeah, he is a leftist. This is a problem with far left ideology, and we need to condemn it right now. The same thing with people who are far right and preach violence. We have no room in society for these people, and we have no room in society for somebody who supports that against innocent people. That is the truth. That is unfortunately not what we've seen online. It is not what we've seen on the internet. It is not what we've seen in our college campuses, in our workplaces. The truth is much different from that. Why? Because the people on the left, the people who for years have been labeling us as threats to democracy of fascists, Nazis, the most dehumanizing terms ever in existence of this country. Why? Because we actually fought and killed fascists and Nazis in World War II. We persecuted them. We prosecuted them during the Nuremberg trials. We actually are constantly going after neo-Nazi groups through the federal government, which many of them are labeled and classified as terrorist organizations. To label somebody like that is literally describing somebody as a threat to our republic itself, which I wonder what president said that openly during a speech. Oh yes, it was Joe Biden, the president who demonized 74 million Americans for the horrific crime of not voting for him. Yes, they have never cared about us. But anyway, since we've already established the evils of calling somebody a fascist, how it's wrong, and how it's dehumanizing, let's get to a little bit of psychology. People don't like to admit they're wrong. That is a fact. Leftists, specifically, don't like to ever admit they're wrong. So what is their rationality towards this shooting? Blame someone else. And in their case, blame MAGA. If you've been watching the Trump administration so far, that has been the first reaction by every leftist for anything that's wrong. Things are expensive, blame Trump. Crime is up, blame Trump. Doesn't matter that it went up under Biden. And not only bad things, but also good things. We no longer have a border crisis. Trump's a racist. Crime is lowering in big cities. Trump is a xenophobe. There is no winning with these people. There is no dialoguing with these people. There is no way to ever prove to them. There is a way to prove to them that they're wrong, but there's never any way for them to see that they're wrong. So, with that being said, what have they been saying online following the murder of Charlie? That the shooter was a MAGA Republican. I mean, what leads somebody to come to this conclusion with no evidence? Oh, his parents are both MAGA Republicans. Okay, my parents are Protestants and I'm a Catholic. My mom is a conservative and her grandparents are both socialists. Well, her father is a socialist. My college is mostly liberal and I'm a conservative. That does not change anything because people have individual power, of knowledge, of logic, of rationality to make their own choices. That is a ridiculous argument. And anybody arguing that, please get an education, a real one. Not the one you get from your socialist college professor that teaches you that men can be pregnant. That is not an education. That is an indoctrination. Read a book. Read a real book. Try to actually learn. Don't be stuck on this infinite spiral of it's always the problem of the right-wing Republicans and never mind, because it's not true. And the fact that this argument has actually made it to mainstream, it's pathetic. It just shows how a huge majority of people on the left have no common sense. They have no way to actually be rational. They are irrational beings. at this point. And that is not me preaching violence. Let's get this straight. I condemn violence on both sides. I don't ever want to see my brothers and sisters under Christ attacked. However, I will not tolerate a society with people who have no way to argue their differences politely and civilly, who have no way to remain peaceful when faced with opposition, peaceful opposition, that have no way to admit they're wrong when they are wrong, and then, after all is said and done, after all conservatives are shot and killed, they beg us to lower the temperature. Where the hell were they for 10 years when we asked them to lower the temperature with their demonization? Where were they? What was MSNBC saying for 10 years ever since Trump has been in political life? What has MSNBC been saying since 2012, since Charlie Kirk created Turning Point USA? What have they been saying? Fascist, Nazi, white supremacist, threats to democracy, and not only them, to us too. We begged them to stop. We begged them to educate themselves. We begged them to lower the temperature. They never did. And as a matter of fact, they only heated it up and up and up until he got shot, until he got killed in front of his family, in front of his children. Yes, the blood of Charlie Kirk is on the hands of every single person who has been saying that. It's on the hands of every single person who delegitimized his humanity. And it is on every single person right now who is cheering for his murder. So back to the shooter, which they say is a MAGA Republican, even though he's not. Why is he a leftist? We knew he was a leftist in the first place. Again, I mean, it's honestly common sense, and history just proved this right. Now, why is he a leftist? Well, number one, on his bullet was engraved, "Hey, fascist, catch." And I mean, I actually want to touch on that for a little bit. Hey, fascist, catch. The argument that the left used to justify he is a MAGA Republican, he's whatever, is that he is a Groyper follower of Nick Fuentes. Now, I don't really like a lot of the opinions Nick Fuentes has. I think he goes way too far in some instances, many of them. But I really do respect his address towards Charlie Kirk. But this isn't even about Nick Fuentes. Yes, he has some very inflammatory comments, which is okay. All of us say something inflammatory once or twice. Myself included. I am a sinner. I've said a lot of very bad things in my life. I don't understand. So on one side, the left argues he was a far-right conservative follower of Nick Fuentes who shot Charlie Kirk because he wasn't right-wing enough. And on the second side, he wrote a bullet written with "Hey, fascist, catch," basically metaphorically telling the fascist Charlie Kirk to catch his bullet. So that makes no logical sense. Is he a fascist or he's not? Is he a follower of Nick Fuentes or is he not? That, my friends, is a contradiction. Why? Because they don't care about the facts. They don't care about studying. They just want to be right. And the truth is, they're wrong. And I don't even need to go on a rampage forever to prove that the guy was a leftist. Just look at his life. He wrote "Hey, fascist, catch" on his bullet. He was in a romantic relationship with a transgender roommate who hates Charlie Kirk and who herself admitted he hates Charlie Kirk. His friend said not only that he was left on pretty much everything, he was the only member of his family that was a left-winger, which completely debunks the argument that his parents are MAGA Republicans, therefore he is too. He was on Antifa Discord servers, and as a matter of fact, posted on it following his attack on Charlie Kirk. How much more evidence do we need to come to the conclusion that this guy was a leftist, that the Utah police has confirmed he was radicalized by this ideology to kill Charlie Kirk? How much evidence do these people need? Do we need to draw it for them? He was a leftist. Do we need to go back to first grade Clearly we do, because the same people who don't know what a woman is, who don't know who can get pregnant, are trying to lecture us on a profound subject like political ideologies. Give me a break. And interestingly enough, these are the same people that want to take guns away from us. And I find that very interesting. The same group that is saying that the guys on the other side are fascists, threats to democracy, and basically just ring around the rosy when one of them gets shot, is the same group saying you cannot own guns because it's too dangerous. Are you kidding me? Why is that? Have you ever considered why did they do that? I have, and I have the answer. Because they are all about authoritarian behavior. They want to take away our guns so they can kill more of our people. And I'm not saying the mainstream left-wingers, like the nice left-wingers, want to do that, but a lot of them do. And a lot of them who preach this will indirectly contribute to this. Why? Because we have a mental health crisis in this country. We have a political crisis in this country, and it is not from the right. And as a matter of fact, I condemn every single right-winger now who is preaching that we need to murder innocent leftists as a means to get revenge. Revenge is not ours. Justice is of the Lord's. It is never ours. We cannot stoop down to the level of the left. We need to pray, and we need to fight peacefully to preserve our ideas. Because guess what? Charlie didn't die in vain. And if the point of this murder was to scare us into exile, guess what? You guys have failed from the left. Because we are more motivated than ever to get out there, to canvass, to debate, and to win the next election. That is what we're going to do. And you're going to see it on the ballot box. We are not scared of your pathetic attempts to silence us. Yes, you have killed our mentor. You have killed our friend. But now, by killing one Charlie Kirk, you have created millions of Charlie Kirks. And you have made him an eternal martyr. How do you feel that the man you tried to erase, to silence, to kill, is now the greatest symbol in America of free speech and political tolerance? How do you feel about that? How do you feel that now people who recently cared about politics but didn't really want to go out there and do anything are now lining up en masse to start Turning Point USA chapters on their colleges and high schools? How do you feel that a man who was politically active before, yet didn't really want to expose himself too much on the internet for his opinions, is now wearing a suit and tie and standing up behind a "Don't Tread on Me" flag, talking about his opinions in order to further enhance the reach of his message? How do you feel about that? That you have just awakened the sleeping giant? I am sure that for the leftists that feels horrible, which is why you guys on X are cheering for it and trying to drown the noise with your pathetic genocidal claims against conservatives. And honestly, I pray for you. I feel sorry for you because I know every single one of you has a deeply unhappy life. You guys do not have God, therefore you guys do not have happiness. You guys are depressed. You guys are spiritually deprived of grace. And I feel sorry for you, and I pray for you. But here's the deal. Just because I pray for you does not mean that I am forced to engage with somebody who does not know or care about dialogue. Just because I pray for you and I spiritually love you does not mean that I will peacefully step aside while I watch my friends and my colleagues be shot to death because of your political uneducated behavior, because of your political illiteracy. That is not the Christian motto. The Christian motto is, yes, love thy neighbor, but rejoice in justice. Rejoice in bravery. Never be a coward. For Jesus said, they will hate you, but know that they hated me first. So I don't care how many people hate me right now. I don't care how many people think I'm controversial. Yes, I am controversial, and I stand for what I fight. I stand for what I believe in, and I will not back down. Why? Because the man who died by not backing down and fighting for a better tomorrow encourages us all to do the same. And it is not you from the left. It is not you, MSNBC. It is not you, Hassan Piker, terrorist, piece of shit, degenerate, violent murderer, indirectly, caller for violence, extremist, communist, disgrace to humanity that is going to stop me. It is not you. For I only answer to one, and that is God. I don't answer to you, Hassan. I don't answer to MSNBC. I don't answer to any of the radical left influencers on X. You guys are useless to society and to me. You guys are disgraces. And I pray for you. I really do. But at the same time, I cannot keep quiet about this. That the left has a moral problem. And everybody knows that. And it is not just with Charlie Kirk. They have lied about everything to get their way. They have lied about a border crisis, which was obviously one of the reasons they lost the election. They have lied about crime. When Irina Zarutska was murdered by a 14-time jailed violent criminal, the left cried racism, even though racism was not the fact of the matter. When it comes to the criminal, it was justice. You cannot stab somebody in the throat to death and expect to get away with it. Now, why are they like this? It is not just about Charlie Kirk. It is a slippery slope of lunacy, of craziness, and of radical political behavior that is driving the left toward something it was not before. In America, because this is not new, actually. This has been implanted by the communists in the Soviet Union and Karl Marx for at least 150 years. At least. And this needs to stop. This needs to end. We are all Americans at the end of the day. However, part of the American culture is tolerance. It is free speech. It is tolerating free speech. So if you cannot tolerate free speech, yes, we will find you, we will expose you, you will be fired, you will be shunned, and you will be censored. Because free speech does not apply to threats to political opponents. Free speech, yes, you can say whatever you want, but we, and your employer as well, has the chance to say, I don't want you in my business. I don't want you in my school. I don't want you in my house. I don't want you in my society. That is the point we are making. You can have whatever opinion you want. You, however, cannot kill us for having our own. That is not democracy, which you guys so claim to defend. That is closer to fascism than any Charlie Kirk declaration he ever said. And getting on Charlie Kirk, I have seen a lot of misguided quotes. First of all, from Stephen King. That guy is a loser, okay? I'm just going to say it. That guy is a loser. He's a degenerate. He's a retard. He's a moron. And he claimed, Charlie Kirk supports stoning gays. He never said that. As a matter of fact, he had to apologize. But the damage is done. And Erica Kirk, if you're watching this, and God bless you, sue this man for all he has. Honestly. Make him an example. It's pathetic. That guy is a total wuss. He does not have the courage to say that publicly. Why? Because we would completely verbally dismember all his argument. An argument, not him. Another claim they have made about Charlie Kirk is that he supported gun violence for the sake of the Second Amendment. That is completely taken out of context. Whoever says that has clearly never watched a Charlie Kirk episode in their lives. He never said that. What he was saying is that not only if you ban guns, gun deaths will never reach zero, which you can actually see that in many third world countries, such as the one I come from, Brazil. We have one of the strictest gun regulations in the world, and our homicide rate is higher than America's. In Mexico, in Argentina, in France, gun deaths will never reach zero if you ban guns. And number two, Before he said the quote y'all like to cut out of context, he said, we need to work towards minimizing and reducing gun crime, gun violence, and gun deaths, because we're Christians. However, we cannot have this utopian idea that by banning guns, we're going to get them to zero. We cannot have this idea that by allowing all guns in this country, either we're going to get gun deaths to zero. We're not. And that the Second Amendment is not for hunting or even self-defense. It is for the people to rebel and protect themselves against a tyrannical government, as was shown in 1776 during the American Revolution. That is what it is for. And that is what people miss. And by the way, Charlie Kirk, again, was a moderate. He loved all people. He collected black conservatives and even black liberals. He allowed them to speak. He loved Hispanics. He loved gays. He loved every single community in America. And the ones chastising him as a transphobe, as a homophobe, or whatever, hydrophobe, you guys are sick. You guys are stupid. You guys have no idea what you're talking about. And I will expose you to kingdom come. Right? That is the fact of the matter. So in conclusion, let's just conclude here. Remember, you're not alone. Nobody in the conservative movement is alone, because we do not fight against each other. Yes, there have been many divisions, especially between the group right, the traditional right, moderate right. We have a lot of divisions. However, it is time for the right wing to unite. We cannot engage in this brotherly civil war between us when we have a common enemy. And believe it or not, the common enemy isn't even Democrats. It's immoral people. It is people who don't love anybody, who don't love our country, who don't love God, who don't love peace, and just want to destroy our country. That is our common enemy. And we will fight against it. Don't be scared. As I said before in the last episode, voting for Trump and voting Republican doesn't mean shit if you just stand there all day and do nothing. You gotta fight. Every day, get up, go to work, go to school, and think, thank you, God, for making me an American. Thank you, God, for leading me towards you. That is how you make America great again. That is how you prove that America works for all. Never, ever stand still. Never, ever bow down to what corrupt and immoral and evil people tell you is wrong. In the words of Donald Trump, the more that a broken system tells you that you're wrong and that you need to stop, the more you should be certain that you have to keep pushing forward. That is the spirit of the conservative movement. We do not bow down to the leftist, fascist, authoritarians who want us dead. No. We will fight them tooth and nail with our words, but at the end of the day, still pray for them. Because that is what Christ commands us to do. I don't want to see anybody calling for the violence against innocent leftists. Just like I don't want to see anybody calling for violence against innocent rightists. This is the turning point of our country, where all people with common sense must unite. All people with common sense must denounce this problem. However, if you are a leftist who's cheering and justifying the death of Charlie Kirk, unfollow me right now. Unfollow all of conservative movements right now, because we will make your life infinitely times more difficult. We will not stand and watch you do this. We will make you lose your job. Yes. We will make you get kicked out of college. Yes. Because we are in a society with moral values. We are not an anarchy. And if you want to live in an anarchy, get the hell out of here. This is the message I am putting forward. Thank you for watching. God bless you. And God bless the United States of America.